Microsoft, by the way, making me come to my sad place to throw bricks, right? Fuck Microsoft. In the year of Luigi 2022, right? Stephanie Sterling was relevant again. I was in the news. I was making headlines. They'd turned me into an NFT. I was talking to someone from the Business Insider, and then Microsoft had to buy Activision and become the hot story of the week. Oh, Phil Spencer just couldn't handle James Stephanie Sterling being in the limelight again, being relevant like it was 2016. Like it was 2016. Muck on my hands now, and my nails have come off with the paint. So yes, Microsoft bought Activision Blizzard, one of the biggest stories of all time, and now we have to talk about it. I thought what I would do is break the Jimquisition up a little bit, so this week I want to focus mostly on the material, industry-wide impact of Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard as a major company, and then in a future Jimquisition we can talk more about what a complete Bobby Kotick is. If I hold this up to the camera, it looks like a big brick and I look impressive and muscular, right? Yeah, that's how perspective works. Anyway, while I throw massive boulders in rage, enjoy this week's Jimquisition. It cannot be overstated exactly how huge Microsoft's acquisition of Activision is. In terms of raw historical momentum, this is the biggest thing to have happened in years, certainly more disruptive and remarkable than anything that's happened on the fucking blockchain. With Activision in its pocket, Microsoft has instantly become the holder of what was by far the biggest slate of third-party franchises on the market. Call of Duty alone would be massive, but when you add World of Warcraft, Overwatch, Diablo, and all of the other titles I've stopped covering because of Activision Blizzard's unapologetic commitment to shielding workplace abusers, it all adds up to Microsoft not just succeeding in video games, but outright dominating the space. There is a ridiculous amount to unpack here. What this means for the industry, what it means for customers, how Activision Blizzard's recent controversies could be addressed or play a role, but I think the most important question on anybody's lips is, will we finally get a sequel to Metal Arm's Glitch in the System? I'm just joking, of course. There's no way we wouldn't, right? So let's move on to talk about more urgent matters, such as why it would be good to get a sequel to Metal Arm's Glitch in the System. Developed by Swingin' Ape Studios and published by Vivendi in 2003, Metal Arm's Glitch in the System is a humorous third-person shooter about a robot that blasts other robots to bits. It was a ridiculously difficult game, wasn't the most refined experience, but I absolutely adored it. It was silly and revelled in the fact that it could get away with extreme levels of violence because the characters were machines, allowing for screaming, flailing dismemberments that would have been utterly horrific if anything could actually bleed. A modernised version would be really, really, really fucking good. I'd like it. I'd play it. Let's have it. Sadly, it wasn't a huge success. It's been stuck waiting for the second instalment of what was a planned trilogy ever since. Having spoken with the developer in the past, I discovered that the director had tried to buy the rights to the game back so he could complete it himself. But Vivendi said no, because these companies like to keep shit for the sake of keeping it. Eventually, the IP was swallowed through the years and the corporate acquisitions, and eventually sat among the mountain of titles hoarded and sat upon by Activision, gathering dust because the trappings of capitalism rewards companies for doing absolutely fuck all with the art they seal away like trinkets on a dragon's pile of gold. Anyway, the point is, Microsoft has already expressed an interest in games like this. Well, not Metal Arm specifically. That's a game pretty much only I express an interest in with any regularity, but the company has confirmed that it's Activision's hoard of forgotten titles that truly appeals. MS Gaming CEO Phil Spencer, the spotlight-stealing little turd, has expressed a desire to bring back titles Activision was simply doing nothing with, name-checking such games as King's Quest and Guitar Hero, Hexen as well. Hexen! Do you remember Hexen? Activision CEO Bobby Kotick once threatened to have an assistant killed. With Microsoft's ownership of new and classic franchises also comes the potential to get some of the biggest names in the medium a permanent home on Xbox Game Pass. Make no mistake, one Blizzard worker was harassed to the point of suicide, but the prospect of Call of Duty yearly releasing at no additional cost to those subscribed to Game Pass is a prospect that few in the game-buying public are gonna have any major problem with. Now, I have problems with Microsoft's trajectory, and we'll get to that, but I cannot deny that massive potential for Game Pass to completely own the market at this point. Something that would be even cooler if they could produce enough Xbox Series X's to fucking get us into the current generation en masse, properly, like grown-ups. But yeah, with Game Pass already being perhaps the best recurrent deal in games today, the addition of everything under Actiblizz's massive umbrella is, on its own, pretty exciting. I should say, I like Game Pass a lot. I dabbled with it more after finally getting a Series X myself, and it's already led to the discovery of my new favourite game, the impeccably absurd Procession to Calvary. Calvary! Not cavalry, like I said in the entire fucking video on it and a podcast. It's encouraged me to widen my interests in both my indie and mainstream playing. Hell, I even played Forza the other day. Fucking Forza. Activision Blizzard refuses to make amends for the lives it ruined with its institutional and systematic abuse of employees, particularly marginalised ones, and paying a subscription and getting access to the huge slate of games on Game Pass is already a pretty sweet deal. If Microsoft gets to add COD, Diablo and Metal Arms glitch in the system, it's genuinely quite difficult to complain. Unlike those who complained about the abuse at Activision, at Blizzard and at King, and who were ignored. All that said, I do have concerns, and I think they're fair. Microsoft has been steadily and carefully making significant purchases over the years. It's bought up a number of influential indie studios such as Ninja Theory, and made a huge wave when it scooped up Bethesda Softworks. Activision Blizzard is by far its largest gaming acquisition, arguably the biggest one in the history of the business, and it's now beyond clear that Microsoft is straight up Disneying the game industry. It doesn't want to just win in the gaming space, it wants to rule it, and a move this bold practically threatens a de facto monopoly on the game industry, a level of influence so complete that while it's not legally or technically the only game in town, it functionally may as well be. Right now, this might not seem like a bad idea, after all, with Game Pass being such a great deal and Microsoft not being among the very worst and hated of the publishers, which is like being the least heartless scumbag on Activision's board. Quite a few people are simply thrilled at that aforementioned prospect of quote-unquote free releases of CODs and Diablos. But do remember, Game Pass is so competitive right now because it's, you know, competing. We've seen hundreds and hundreds of times over the years that competition is the only thing that keeps businesses investing in quality, customer-friendly products. My favourite example has always been the embarrassingly disgusting state of broadband internet in the United States, and how service has stagnated since providers carved the nation up into fiefdoms, where you have almost no choice but to use them, and they have no incentive to deliver a worthy service because you can't go anywhere else. Now, we don't want a game industry where we can't go anywhere else, because no corporation wants to try in an industry where its customers can't go anywhere else. They've never done anything simply because it's a good thing to do. They only ever improve under threat. Threat of losing business, or threat of regulation. Right now, Game Pass is an incredible value, a relatively low investment for customers in exchange for a massive library of titles. The more Microsoft owns, however, the more it will want to skew that value in its favour. The more of us, the customers it has under its belt, the more it will want from us, and the more this shifts, the less threat Microsoft will feel to push harder. Bobby Kotick allegedly wanted to buy Kotaku and PC Gamer to improve press coverage of Activision. What a pathetic little toolbag that fucking creep is, huh? It doesn't look like Microsoft will want to stop at Activision Blizzard. At any rate, the company has historically met with limited success in pushing the Xbox brand outside of North America and Europe, and has for a long time wanted to get a better foothold in markets like Japan. With the purchase of Activision, I'm willing to believe almost anything is possible for Microsoft at this point. In terms of Japanese companies, I could very easily see it buying either Capcom or Square Enix. The former is rock solid in terms of financial success, and it has had a downright outstanding output in terms of quality games these past few years. The modern Resident Evil games, Devil May Cry, and its slate of fighting games are pretty much the exact kind of thing that would fit in with the Xbox brand. Blizzard. Square Enix, on the other hand, is such a staple of the Japanese game industry that possessing it would basically be Microsoft's golden ticket to conquering that market, and Microsoft has stated intent to acquire the company in the past. These are the two most immediate companies that spring to mind when I think of Microsoft eating up more establishments. But really? Practically nothing's off the table now. Hell, with Microsoft now holding the keys to the biggest third-party franchises out there, I genuinely would not be surprised if Sony itself expressed a keenness to sell out the PlayStation brand. While PlayStation has an impressive suite of first-party games, it can no longer safely bet on being able to offer Call of Duty, Fallout, The Elder Scrolls, Tony Hawk, or Metal Arm's glitch in the system to its customers. It's not over for Sony, not at all, but if I were in charge of PlayStation, I'd absolutely have the conversation if Microsoft came a-callin'. About the only company I could see holding out on Microsoft at this point is Nintendo, and that's because Nintendo is Nintendo, its own weird little anomalous thing hanging out in its strange pocket dimension that neither conforms to nor respects the comings and goings of traditional corporate environments. That's not to say I think such a buyout would be completely impossible, but I'm at a point now where it's the only way a Microsoft acquisition could shock me. Activision Blizzard is now a subsidiary of Microsoft, or it will when all the finalizations are done. This is huge. This is fucking massive. It's both a cause for concern and a cause for a lot of customers to be excited, at least for now, while there's still enough of an incentive for Microsoft to give a shit about their satisfaction. Until then, I guess I'll look forward to seeing Metal Arms on Game Pass. So yeah, let us never forget that Bobby Kotick oversaw a company that was rife with harassment and abuse, that the man himself is a deranged little creep. This is such a big story that we're going to be picking it apart for quite some time. So I think maybe next episode, that's when I'm going to talk about what a complete Bobby Kotick is, plus everyone else who was overseeing the horrific work environment at Activision Blizzard and how Microsoft's going to deal with that. Either way, I do this show once a week. Everybody's already talked this out of their asses. I've got nothing new to add. All I can do is do vaguely, mildly viral tweets about the situation. And I can't feed my family on that. Patreon.com/Jimquisition. Thank God for me. Bye.